This is the activity instructions video for the so-called in-class activity on Taoism and textual criticism. Now, your reading from the introduction to Hong Kyung Kim's book presented some of the complex issues involved in determining an origin for the Tao Te Ching, and it also gave some background about the Guodian and Ma Wangdui texts. The video lecture explained how those differences affect the way we read the Tao Te Ching, and also talked about the way in which we can do some textual criticism of the Zhuangzi to separate out portions of the text which derived from different schools following Zhuangzhou. The basic lessons are, number one, that contemporary scholarship of those texts cannot assume that they are by single historical authors, and must instead be considered as evolved collections of writings by multiple authors, which may express different viewpoints. And then, two, the mistaken assumption of single authors behind these texts resulted in interesting and creative interpretations which influenced later Chinese culture. Now, for today's activity, you'll do an activity on eClass that simulates the difficulty of working with archaeological texts, which are often found in fragmentary form and need to be identified. Now, the fragments you'll be asked to identify are not translations from actual fragments from the Guodian or Ma Wangdui texts. Those are much more difficult to work with. Those required experts to decipher. You also won't be asked to do any of the difficult work of interpretation that results from finding differences between the archaeological texts and the standard versions. Instead, you'll just be given some simple, fragmentary excerpts from the Paul Lin translation of the Tao Te Ching and asked to put those in order. And this simulates the puzzle-like aspect of working with disordered bamboo slips, such as those which were discovered in the Guodian tombs.
Because this in-class activity is a little bit complicated, I wanted to show you what it actually looks like here on eClass. So, first, let me read through the instructions as you read along. In this exercise, you'll replicate the experience of working with fragmentary texts, such as the bamboo slips used to write many early Chinese texts. You'll be shown a number of small slip-like phrases which you can drag and drop around the screen. These phrases are taken from 5 different chapters of the Paul Lin translation of the Tao Te Ching. Your job is to figure out which 5 chapters the slips belong to and put them in order. This is a 2-part exercise. In the first, you'll drag and drop the phrases into groups corresponding to 5 different chapters. In the second, you'll then write the numbers of the 5 chapters where the slips came from, and be sure to write these in order from lowest to highest. It is okay to use the search function to locate where the phrases come from in the Paul Lin translation. But note the following. First, the slips will only contain small portions of the 5 chapters. Second, the slips will be missing all punctuation that appears in the original. And finally, some of the slips may ignore the line breaks from the published translation. So that is, the first word on the slip might be the last word on a line, and then it will continue to the first word on the next line without giving you any warning. So what does this look like in practice? Well, here you'll see we have groups of blank slots that are arranged into groups of 5 or 4 or 3, in which the slips can be put. And here we have phrases that are arranged on fake little digital bamboo slips in fragmentary form. And all of these phrases come from 5 different chapters of the Tao Te Ching, which you can see are in these little groups of blank spots. So these could be any of the 81 chapters of the Tao Te Ching. But let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that they come from chapters 17, 27, 37, 47, and 57. All right. Then you just arrange all the slips that belong to chapter 17 up there, chapter 27 here, chapter 37 there, and so on. And so you do this just by clicking and dragging. So if this is from chapter 57 and they go in this order, you just move them up and slide them into place there. Voila. That's the end of part 1. Then you have to go down and write the chapter numbers in part 2. Don't forget this part. And the important thing is you have to put them in order from lowest to highest. So if we are pretending that these are 17, 27, 37, 47, and 57, they have to be put in that order. Don't put 17 down there and 57 up there, or you won't get credit, okay? I wish eClass was smarter, but we have to work with what we've got. So put them in order and you'll be fine. And that's it. Just when you're done, remember, click Finish Attempt right there, and it'll record your answer and hopefully give you full credit.